All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on our Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner. We have the awesome Mike Milner in the house. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I'm glad that you're just feeling better. I know we're supposed to record a couple of days ago, and you're feeling better. And then today you said you're going to go hop in the pool after this, so I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah. It's pretty hot and humid over here on the East Coast, so
Yeah.
definitely timely to have the pool, especially with not being able to really go anywhere.
Yep.
So it
Yeah.
works out well.
Exactly. No, it's pretty warm over here too in Northern California. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. I was like, man, I need a pool or just I need to go to the beach or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, appreciate your time. And I'm looking forward to this. I mean, we've had every other coach on here. And honestly, man, they've brought like the heat with all these different questions and values. So I already know that you're just going to take it to another level. So let's jump into it. So just to kick this off, what is your go-to tip, to get clients and leads right now online, or if you were even serving people in person?
And then how long have
Yeah.
you been like in the
Yeah.
industry for, man?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the industry for almost a decade now. I started out as an in-person trainer, actually teaching like small boot camp style classes, and then found my passion for nutrition. So I made that pivot pretty early in the process and started doing nutrition coaching for another company. And then they just went into a direction that I didn't agree with. So I ended up starting my own business. Right now what's working well for me as far as lead generation is really focusing on Facebook, in particular my Facebook group. So what I do is, you talked about bringing value to this podcast. I look at where can I bring value to people who are following me in my inner circle, but then also, people who might be friends of friends, and just using Facebook to say, I put out free trainings every single week. We have a free training in our Facebook group, and then I use that to then say, hey, if anybody's interested, I did this free training on Monday about how to stop binge eating, for example. If you're interested, comment, and now I can pull those people into our Facebook community where now we're providing even more resources and reaching out and making sure that they have everything they need. So there's a whole, nurture sequence that goes into that. But ultimately, for me, it's the bringing value on the front end and really showing what we can do. And I always say that with my program, I want somebody to come into my ecosystem and walk away with more value than they came in with, regardless of whether they buy from me or not. So that's always the objective. Is if you do one of my trainings, sit through one of our live videos, go through one of my webinars, I want you to walk away and be like, wow, I learned something. And now I have the tools to be a little bit better than before I watched that, even if you don't sign up for coaching with me. So that's really the main thing that's working, and just continuing to try to filter as many people into the the Facebook group as possible. And then we kind of like use different systems to cross pollinate so that I have them on my email list,
Yep.
on, a text list, on ManyChat, so I can send Facebook Messenger blasts. And that's really, I know I talk fast, but that's like the process of how we do it, kind of the lead generation process for right now.
Yeah, right on, man. And that's awesome because like not one, so all the coaches we've asked about this question, right? No one's really said the whole thing with Facebook, which I'm really happy to hear that because that's something Chris and I doubled down on. I mean, obviously there's two of us, so he does like the whole Facebook thing. I manage a lot of Instagram, but so many people just don't, they kind of give up on Facebook. And I'm like, there are so many people, there's billions of people on Facebook. I'm like, how are you not going to want to sit there and try to get leads and nurture people and get them into Facebook groups? So I love it, man. I love how you're doing that.
Yeah, and people spend a lot of time on Facebook. And what's interesting is you can set up your personal profile as basically a funnel into your Facebook group. So, if you're sending out friend requests, if you know where your ideal client is hanging out on Facebook and you're in those groups as well, and you're just adding value to those groups and they send you a friend request, then all of a sudden they click on your profile and they're like, let me learn a little bit more about this guy. You can have, your banner photo, your, featured photo, and everything kind of directing to your Facebook group where they're like, let me, people, it's almost like automatic. They don't really think about what they're doing. They just start clicking on stuff. So it's like, let me click on this photo. And then all of a sudden they see something that's like, join our free group here. And they click on that link and they request to join your group. So my personal, Facebook profile actually works as a funnel to just direct people into my free Facebook group. And that process has been working really well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
man,
that.
you're already bringing the heat right now, Mike. So I appreciate it, man. So the next question I had was like, you've been in the industry for 10 years. You've obviously coached a lot of people in person and online. What's your best like retention tip that you can give for the aspiring fitness professional?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've learned, especially early in the game, was that, if you're just focusing on like a 30-day transformation, 90-day transformation, it sounds good, and it can be like flashy, and it can generate new business, but typically people have that deadline in mind, and then you have to resell them over again. So it's like, all right, do this 30-day challenge. You see all these people getting results, and that's great, but then what happens when the 30 days are up? Typically the person has that deadline in their mind, so they're like, all right, I'm in this for 30 days, and then that's it. And then all of a sudden you have to turn on sales mode again. What I found is that I like to have people who are committed. And the way that I write content, I like to set that expectation that we get results, but we do it the right way. And it takes time. Change takes time. If you really care about your health and you really want to transform, mind, body, and really, be invested in the long term, I'm setting that expectation on the front end. So that doesn't mean that I won't do a 3-month package. That's like the minimum commitment that I will say up front. You have to commit for at least 90 days. So what I do is we provide an experience that over delivers the promise. So basically we're saying, here's what you're getting. And I always kind of leave out certain things that I know they're going to get within the program to over deliver, and just, it's really about the client experience. And one of the things that I found super helpful is if you kind of take things in phases and always think one step ahead for your client, then there's always going to be something else for them to work on. So I think sometimes people look at it as this linear process, like maybe a client comes in with a 20-pound weight loss goal, and you're like, okay, here's how we're going to get there. You get them to that goal, and then again, it's like you have to resell them. Why do they need you? They reach their goal. So I always like to think, I plant the seed early on in the communication process of, we're going to get to that goal, but afterwards we need to make sure that you're not regaining that weight. We need to make sure that your metabolism stays in a healthy spot so that we can continue to rebuild calories and get you to a spot of, maintenance, where you're effortlessly maintaining that goal. And then it's really exciting because we're going to get to work on your muscle. We're going to get to work on your performance and your strength. And we start to, plant those seeds as the phase after that initial goal. So it's really about how you communicate it, and kind of periodize the process, so that we're taking things in like, 3, 6, 9, 12-month increments,
Mhm.
and really, making sure that we're keeping our clients focused, that, health is not a 30-day thing. It's not a 90-day thing. It's a forever thing, really. Ultimately, I don't want, my clients to need me forever, but I want them to invest in the process, do it the right way. And then, when they graduate, maybe it's a year after having worked with me. I have, clients that have been with me for 2 years
Yep.
or longer. And really it's because they see the value in coaching, not because they need coaching. It just becomes something that they're doing because they enjoy it. So that's really the process that I use to, to increase the retention.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree 100%, man. Like, especially when you hit like the nail, like right there with the hammers on the client experience and just over delivering, that's something we really honed in on, especially online. These days, I think we talked about this on your podcast. There's just no excuse not to be able to give them a client experience, and really, really go above and beyond, even though it's online training, because that's really at the end of the day going to get them to pay, stay, and refer. And that's what you want, the long time value of the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes people make the mistake of not charging enough for their service, and
Yep.
then they end up trying to service, too many people. Where I would rather have fewer clients who are paying more, who are invested in the process, and that they've got skin in the game, and they're in it for the long haul. And now I can go deeper with those clients, and really work on some of the stuff that's going to make a difference and transform. That's those testimonials are the ones that bring referrals, because they're not just talking about weight loss, they're talking about life-changing transformation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I'm glad you hit
100%.
on that though too, about it's, I always say quality over quantity on anything, because it's like, man, there's so many coaches I've heard, they're like, oh, I got like 100 online clients, and like they're like proud of that, which I'm like, that's cool, but it's like, I mean, at some point that's going to take a toll on you. And I know you're probably not charging a high premium. It's probably like $100 a month, which you're going to slip up at some point, with like each of those clients. Like, you can't sit there and give all that focus to 100 clients like you do, and you're probably sitting there favoring certain ones to where it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, I mean, sometimes we have to learn that the hard way. And
Yeah.
that was definitely something when I first started my own business. It was like I just wanted to bring on anyone everyone that I could possibly help. It was like, it doesn't matter, pay me whatever. And I had like 120 clients to myself, and I had no life. It was like 18-hour days. I was barely sleeping, and my physical health started to suffer because I'm trying to just keep up. And sometimes you just got to learn the hard way.
No, absolutely, man. So for the aspiring fitness professional or even a nutritionist, what would be your best piece of advice for them right now to get started? And then the second part of this is, has there ever been like a failure that you look back at when you first got into that you're just like, man, like I wish I could have changed that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot to choose from there. But for somebody who's just getting started, brand new, the one thing that I would say is you can help people now. You don't need more certifications. You don't need more education. Wherever you're at right now, you're further along than somebody. So you can start helping people right now. You don't need to wait. Like we have this imposter syndrome that we talked about on my podcast, where it's like, there's always going to be more knowledge to acquire. You're never going to know anything. Just start. Like experience is the best possible way to get started. So put in the reps and start helping people, and just kind of have to earn your stripes when you're beginning, because if you don't have a bunch of testimonials to pull from, well, you need to create them. So start helping people now. That would be the first thing. Don't delay. Just get in the game. And as far as mistakes that I've made, the biggest one that sticks out for me, I just touched on one, which was trying to help everybody and getting burnt out quickly. But another one to talk about is the fact that it's important to focus on one thing or maybe two things and get really good at that. And so kind of instead of going wide, like pick one or two platforms. For me, that's been Facebook. When I first started, I had like information overload of all the different platforms, all the different theories, and the gurus who were telling me like every, way that I needed to generate new business. So it was like, well, crap, I'm not doing LinkedIn. I'm not doing enough with, I didn't have a podcast at the time when I first started, like all these different avenues. So I was, kind of wearing myself too thin and spreading myself too thin. So what I would say is get really good, avoid that mistake by getting really good at one thing or maybe two things. Like pick Facebook and Instagram and just focus on those things until they become predictable and consistent, that how many sales calls you're getting each week. Yep. What are your KPIs? What do you have to do to generate X amount of leads and X amount of calls, and really know your numbers with those platforms. Just pick one, maybe two, and once you've got those like optimized and that system like the back of your hand, then you can move to the next thing and see, all right, maybe now it's the time to start a podcast or to try to work on LinkedIn or, another platform that might be useful. So that would be, the biggest thing. I tried to do everything at once and realized pretty quickly that was not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's just like focus, how do you focus more? It's like the old saying goes, like, if you try to catch two rabbits at the same time, you're not going to catch any of those rabbits, so focus on one thing, double down on that. So I'm really glad you hit on that. So Mike, man, thanks so much for this. I mean, you've really given some great stuff for the Aspiring Fit Pro. I can tell you have a ton of experience and wisdom and knowledge with all this stuff. And, what could we do right now to kind of support you, and where can we support you, or where can we follow you for what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you guys having me. It's always a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So to just stay up to date on what I've got going on, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Coach_Mike_Milner. If you want to connect on Facebook, it's just my name, Mike Milner, and that's Millner. And then I, recently released a book. It's been about 6 months now, but it was a fun process, something I'm still, really proud of. So if anybody wants to read my book, it's called The Personality Diet, and it really just gives, online coaches, nutritionists, even personal trainers, just kind of an overview of my philosophy on how to make nutrition sustainable and enjoyable and get people long-term results that, I feel like I've been able to do over the years. So you can pick that up on Amazon, just search The Personality Diet, or you can grab a copy at thepersonalitydietbook.com.
Right on, man. Congrats on the book.
Congrats,
too.
Man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll definitely have all that linked up for you. And then guys, make sure you guys go follow Mike. Literally, he's always just delivering a ton of wisdom and value. So make sure you guys go follow him. But until next time, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on our Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner. Today we have the amazing and awesome Kelly Michelle with us, and also known as Macro Kelly, right?
Macro Coach Kelly, yeah.
Yeah. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're doing good. When I walked back in, because I forgot my charger, I heard you saying it was really hot over there in Tempe, right?
Oh, it's hot. Yeah, this is the time frame where, everybody, I call it angry August
Oh, okay.
because everybody's just so angry from it being over 100 degrees. And we actually went to 100 degrees in April this year.
Oof.
So it's been a long summer for us so far.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hot.
I can't imagine. So it's just like what, just being inside, just with AC and just working, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hence the shortage in vitamin D because no one's really outside. Because if you are, you're going to singe your face off. And
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Kelly, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I know you're going to give a lot of wisdom. So let's get into this. So my first question is, how many years have you been a fitness professional? And then what's your go-to lead generation strategy tactic to acquire more fitness clients online or in person right now?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 10 years. I started out as a personal trainer right after the recession in 08. Went and got my CPT in 09. Didn't become a trainer until the end of 09, beginning of 2010. And I worked with one training studio the entire duration. Didn't switch from studio to studio. Loved personal training, got into powerlifting, started coaching powerlifting, started going to CrossFit gyms all over Arizona. And after about 3 years of training, I kind of burnt out because I was training such high level athletes, fitness competitors, and that'll do it to anyone. It was intense. So I put over 300 people on stage in that time frame for fitness competitions, several pros, was a posing coach. And then in 2014, I decided to go back and pursue a master's degree in nutrition science, per Alan Aragon's recommendation of not becoming an RD. And I now see why. It's been a great journey. The platform that I use most to drive my business is SEO. And I know that the websites are going to be very obsolete here very soon, functionally obsolete. Everything will be from your cell phone. So I do some Instagram investment in Instagram ads and Facebook ads as well. I have found that after 6 months of doing that, the return is starting to come.
Good.
So that's been, but for me, 75% of my client base comes as personal referral from my nutrition clients, doctors that I work with in prenatal care and also natural medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's awesome. And 75% of your clientele is from word of mouth, right? And that's just because you're not afraid to ask for referrals. And number two, you're getting them results and you're treating them right. Yeah.
And I have a great relationship. If there's one thing I can stress most, if you're not an extrovert, which I'm not, which might surprise you, I'm an introverted extrovert. Are you guys the same?
More like extrovert.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's the shy one, so.
Yeah, I figured Eric was the shy one. Yes.
Sure. I'll roll with that.
So you guys are kind of the combination of me, the introvert and the extrovert. I don't really like to be around a large group of people. I find it to be a little bit draining to my energy. So it's been very nice doing the online coaching. But right now I'm really struggling because we can't really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that little time frame I would take middle of the day to go train at the gym, I've been really missing because I pretty much don't see people in person except my doctors on a fairly regular basis right now. So that's been a struggle.
Yeah, definitely can relate with that, but yeah, Kelly, so you said base 75% comes from referrals and then you do some paid advertisement on Instagram and Facebook. So what is your go-to tip for retention, for retaining your clients?
For retention, touch. You've got to touch your clients. You got to ask them questions. And a lot of my clients give me feedback the first month and they're like, boy, I hope the second month is like the first month. And I can see why somebody would say that because a lot of times, it's that honeymoon phase when you hire a trainer. I've noticed this anytime I've hired a trainer, the first month is great. They secure your payment. And then the next month, you kind of don't matter anymore. And that is one thing that I've seen in the online training coaching system is that you got to get on a platform where you can customize some of these hits to be every single week, like Trainerize, this is the platform that I use. It has all of these customizable messages and goals and things that you can actually send to your clients fairly regularly, right? But for nutrition coaching, I am pretty much in touch with my clients every single day when they start. And then once I start to trust their judgment, I will stop macro momming them a little bit and let them kind of walk on their own. And then I will macro mom them again because they're getting a little ahead of themselves. Just like you're raising a teenager, you know, you've got to kind of give them some leeway, allow them to check in and say, hey, these are the mistakes that I made. I want to establish rapport, but also personal accountability within that person. And it takes a long time for about 25%. I would say 1 in 4 people needs to be handheld a little bit more. So to me, the most important aspect of retention is checking in, really caring about the person and establishing that rapport with them, that trust. You've got to have that trust and communication system. It's like a marriage. So it's like, hey, can I do anything better on my end? And they're like, no, you're doing great. Okay, perfect. Here's what I want you to do better this week. One duty, especially with men, one duty, let them get good at it, give them accolades and give them praise, and then let them move on. Females can do like 2 or 3 things at a time. Men are better if you give them one thing and they get very good at it, and then you give them another task. And they do excellent with affirmation by word, verbal affirmation. So, yeah.
Those are great tips. And then, like, I know we were talking about before we hit the record button about just kind of like nutrition being like so much like psychology, right? So for the aspiring coach that wants to do, nutrition consulting online or whatever, can you maybe dabble a little bit on what you were talking about with that? Cause I thought it was really good.
Yeah. So, a lot of what we do with food is centered around what we did when we were younger. And so we bring our inner child with us. And a lot of times in our 20s, we establish other addictions or habits that maybe were not as productive. And we're like, we know we need to get rid of these things, whether it's, drugs, pornography, spending money, shopping, online shopping. Some of these things can become unhealthy. And what ends up happening is once we cut those off, it either goes into like gym addiction or food addiction. And food addiction, I did not know how prevalent this was and how much of a psychology game restrictive eating has been. So I would say, at least 50% of the people who come into my program struggle with that in the beginning. And once they're getting fed enough calories and they know how to kind of implement meal pairing, a lot of these tendencies go away because the foods are no longer off limits. But then there are also people who will have these incremental binges, or in their mind, they're binges, but they're really just episodes of eating more than one meal, maybe more food than just one meal. So kind of walking them through that and saying, hey, it's okay if you have a little bit more than one meal's worth of macros. Just remember this. If you have a plan when you go into it where you have your meal and you know that that's your meal, and you go for a walk or you defer your attention for 30, 40 minutes and you're still hungry and you recognize your hunger cue is there, then go ahead and indulge in a little bit more. Because nobody understands hunger cue anymore because we've been restrictive eating and we've been setting up all these restrictive parameters, whether it's, I can't have this certain food group because I'm doing keto, I'm intermittent fasting, so I only eat after 10. These parameters create off-limit territories and really quite honestly, I think, sets people up for an unhealthy relationship with food overall because we got so many gimmicks and so many food rules that have absolutely no legitimacy to them whatsoever.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you hit on that because like when we did like a lot of our coaching online, we did a lot of nutrition consulting and that's what we told. It's just like, there's no nutrition police that's going to sit there and like arrest you for like, intertwining different concepts and stuff like that, so I'm glad you hit on that.
Yeah. The nighttime, should I cut this off, coach? Should I stop eating at a certain time? All these things, you just need to re-educate them. Yep. And if you do that, and they understand and they can see it in the data, wow, it didn't hurt me. I ate really late on Wednesday night, didn't even show up on the scale the next morning. Cool. I'm like, you're a calorie balance, my friend.
Yeah.
If you're a calorie balance, if you make small mistakes, here's the beautiful thing. You're going to correct yourself faster than the homeostatic window in most cases. So, don't beat yourself up. And I think People just need reassurance. They need to be confident, and they need to be shown the path. Like, you got to lay the map out in front and say, these next 3 months, we're going to work on this, perfecting these few practices. And then we're going to move after October into a phase getting you ready for, the holidays, which is going to be intense because we want to look our very best, right? But we also want to make sure that we maintain all of those things that we did, because if not, then it's really for no cause that we're doing this process.
Yeah, definitely. No, great. Yeah, that's great stuff, Kelly. So then for the aspiring fitness professional or someone just barely getting into it, what's your number one piece of advice for them? And then was there ever something that you just look back at and you just made a mistake when getting started?
Oh gosh, thousands of those, but yeah, it's a great question. So I think the first thing that came to mind when you guys asked me that question last week was, a lot of fitness coaches, they get into it and they think they're unqualified for the job. We're all unqualified when we start, folks. So if you allow that mentality to hold you back, you will never get ahead. Hire somebody who is better than you are. And that's what I did. I had mentors. I hired a business coach my second year in macro coaching. And then I hired a better business coach once I had exceeded my first business coach's level. And, that would really be the continuing education and not deeming yourself unqualified or unfit to coach people. That mentality will keep you back. The other thing, that I think is really important was a mistake that I did kind of make in the beginning, just because no one really helped me. They were all competing with me, or that's how it made me feel when I would reach out to other fitness professionals and say, hey, what's worked for you? They were not willingly giving up any information like you two do. They were just very, well, I can't really help you. You're in the industry. I know exactly what you're going to do with my information. And I'm like, oh, okay. So don't hoard your information. If you find the holy grail of things that worked for you, share it with other people, because there's enough money to go around. And I would say the number one mistake that I made in the beginning was thinking that I knew it all and that I wasn't going to change my systems for anything.
Yeah.
You have to change your systems. Your standard operating process is going to change a lot. You guys know that. You've probably changed it a million times. Because if Eric wasn't here, how would Chris know what to do, how to do Eric's job?
Yep,
exactly. If Chris was not here, how, it's very important. And you have to hire a team underneath you that you trust. And trust me, it is not going to be easy, because people will burn you in this industry. So you have to have thick skin. And if you don't have it, you will get it.
Yeah.
Wow,
man, Kelly.
I would say if you had a microphone in your hand, that's a mic drop right there. Like,
yeah,
that was so much valuable info right there. Thank you so much for that. I love how you said we're all unqualified starting off, and it's so damn true. That's where the imposter syndrome kicks in. I tell my Fit Pro students, every master was once a disaster. Like, you have to start somewhere. I put in the sets and reps.
That's so true. Yeah, because if you look at it like this, if you have if you're tested right in the beginning, you're going to have a testimony to share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
If you start out in a mess, you are going to have a good message to deliver.
Ooh,
right? Mm-hmm. So it's like that in anything that we do.
Yeah, love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, you brought the fire on this episode. So thank you so much. And is there anything that we could support you on, and where can people follow you?
I just love to help people. I'm dabbling in a lot of different things. I love nutrition, obviously. That is my big love. I'm going to be finishing my PhD, hopefully 2023. That's what I'm set up to do. But just following me on Instagram and recommending new information that I can share. People hit me in the DMs all the time, and they're like, hey, will you just film a quick video on this or that? And Instagram is really not my platform to sell things. I don't really need to do that, but it is my platform to help people better themselves. So at Macro Coach Kelly is my handle. And then my Facebook page is, if you want to add me, is Kelly with an I, Michelle 777. And my website is kelly@kellymichelle.com. Pretty simple.
Awesome.
And same thing, you guys, if you need anything, you know where to reach me. So
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yeah, you brought the fire on this. A lot of great stuff for the aspiring coach. And, thank you so much for coming on this episode of the Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Take care, guys.
All right, guys, go follow Kelly and all the cool stuff she's doing. She will not disappoint you. So until next time. All right, guys, welcome back to another Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner episode. And today we have the amazing Brian Keane from Ireland.
Lads,
Brian.
I'm so excited to talk.
I was going to say, man, you already brought the energy.
I'm jumping over you already. Apologies. I'm like, oh, that's
no worries.
Great call.
No, you brought the energy right before we even got on and hit record. So I'm happy to have you, man. How you doing this morning? Oh, actually, it's evening for you, though.
Yeah, it's evening. It is nearly 6 o'clock here. So, yeah, things are good. I'm winding down. This is the last thing I'm doing today. Normally, I switch off everything, social media, internet, the whole lot goes off at 6 p.m. in my house. So it's a good way to set it up.
Love absolutely, that, man. Well, I appreciate having you, your time and everything. I know you're going to deliver some good wisdom within this Coaches Corner. So let's kick this off. So the first thing I want to know is how long have you been a fitness professional? And then what is your number one marketing strategy to acquire new fitness leads for your business?
So I qualified as a personal trainer back in 2012. So about 8 years now working in the fitness industry. But in 2014, early 2015, I moved online. So over the last 5 years, I've been 100% online. All my programs, they're semi-scale programs, or else there's people coaching on them. And that's what I do now. So it's all online based. And in terms of the leads, I'm a big fan of content marketing. Like I couldn't be a bigger fan of putting out content specific to your avatar and to who it is you're trying to target. Like, you talk about this, lads, in your book. It's the number one foundation of who are you trying to speak to? Is it a weight loss audience? Is it a bodybuilding audience? Is it a, Pilates audience? Whatever avatar you're trying to speak to, and then creating content on different social media platforms to pre-qualify good people into your programs and to work with them. Like one of the biggest mistakes I made, and we'll get to this later, was when you're trying to work with everybody, the old adage, you try and serve everybody, you end up serving nobody. And what happens with online space, especially, can happen in the one-to-one space as well. And I know you're big fans of the hybrid model, but definitely in the online space, it's so crowded and there's so many people doing it, or can be perceived to be so many people doing it, that if you're not putting out content around your specific message to bring the perfect people to you, you're not going to have good pre-qualified leads. And when you're putting out, say, content on weight loss, and you're a fan of keto, or you're a fan of fasting, or you're a fan of flexible dieting, or you're a fan of IFYM, whatever it is, and you're putting out content around that topic, you're automatically drawing in people who are connected with that message. So when you go on to work with them, it makes your life significantly easier because they've already half bought in. So when you're telling them about your program, about your course, about working with you one-to-one, whatever it is, it makes the sell very, very easy. So I'm a big fan of using content marketing to bring in top of funnel and good quality leads, because you end up loving the people you work with, you end up serving them more, and as a result, you get better results with your clients, and then they lead on to testimonies, referrals, etc.
Yeah, man. Well said. I was going to say you could have dropped the mic with that answer, but 100% agree with you, Brian. And honestly, I see all the stuff you actually preach what you're talking about, because you do you're really heavy on Instagram, and you're always doubling down. And you put out really good, valuable, intentional, shareable content. And recently, I saw your post yesterday about TikTok. You hit like over 100,000 followers on TikTok, right?
Yeah. I went over 100,000 at the weekend. It's at like 104,000 today. Like it's just because of the virality of that platform in particular, because there's a supply and demand issue at the minute. I know it might get banned in the US, but there's a supply and demand issue. There's not enough content creators on there. So when you're putting out content, it can go viral. So it's very easy to grow. I only started TikTok, just prior to lockdown,
right.
And was able to build it very fast. And what's ironic is because of obviously different things that I do, I'm a big fan of like being specific with who it is you're targeting. So I'm on Instagram, I have a podcast, blog posts, TikTok, Facebook, etc. But TikTok is a lot younger audience. It skews way younger. So there are people who are going to be potential customers down the line. And as the platform potentially ages up, you can kind of have a bit of a land grab on there. So that's why I've been building it. And it's a fun platform, and you're using, my message is the same. Like one of the inside jokes on my platforms is I've been saying the same thing for 4 years. I'm telling people to get into a calorie deficit. I'm telling them to find a nutritional plan that works for them. and to find exercise they enjoy. And
Yep.
all I've been doing is trying to find entertaining ways to communicate that same message. But as a result, my audience don't get confused. If they go and work with me in a program, they know what they're going to get. So that pre-qualifying works really, really well. And then it just depends on what platforms you want to use,
Yep.
depending on where your market and where your avatar is. I'm a fan of like doing them all because I enjoy the social media side. But if you don't, it's like, well, pick one, double down on that, focus on that, and then serve your audience there.
Love it.
Yeah, I love that, Brian. I love that you even said too that that's kind of what you're doing with TikTok game plan wise, is kind of just like slowly kind of warming them up, and prepping them to become clients over time. So that's great advice for the listeners. And then what's your TikTok handle? So whoever's listening to this, they can go see what you're doing and kind of get some ideas and inspiration.
Yeah, it's just Brian Keane Fitness. And what might be a useful resource for people listening is I did a podcast on my podcast, the one you were on, the online business podcast. I did top 5 ways to use TikTok to grow your business. So it's very intentional about how to go from 0 to 100 followers, 0 to 1,000 followers, and then build it from there. Because like there's certain trends. TikTok is very. I remember when Snapchat exploded a few years ago. I was on Snapchat early. That was one of my biggest viral platforms originally, and then obviously it went dead nearly overnight. But I had built on there, and it's very similar, TikTok and Snapchat, because they're very different user faces. So it's very daunting to jump on TikTok because it's not like anything else.
Yeah.
So I did a podcast breaking down, this is what this page does. This is how the For You page works. Here's your first 5 pieces of content you can create. And here's how to use things like voiceover, trends, all the things that are going viral on TikTok. So it might be useful, assuming it doesn't get banned or Microsoft don't buy it or whatever it is in terms of the US, it might be useful to check that out as well as a resource. And Brian Keane Fitness is my TikTok handle.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll definitely check that out as well too. And anybody that's listening to this should go check that out to really master the game of TikTok if that's what you want to do. So Brian, I'm moving on to the next question. You've obviously worked a lot of, clients, right, over the time. So what has been like your number one retention type of tactic to really retain your clients?
I think I would go to the grave believing on an 80-20 principle when it comes to your current clients versus new leads. So one of the mistakes I used to see with a lot of trainers in my gym when I was a one-to-one trainer, and this moved on to the online space, was people would put so much effort into getting new clients, and then they wouldn't necessarily always look after their current clients, and they were always on to the next one, the next one, the next one. And I flipped that completely in terms of, the Pareto distribution. You guys talked about this on the podcast, that in terms of an 80-20, that focus on your current clients always 80% of the time, because they're your walking billboards. Like they're going to go out and tell people, how great you are as a personal trainer or how great you are as a coach. So like one good client testimonial, one good client referral can potentially get you 3 or 4 new clients. Like that was always my approach when I was one-to-one. Well, not at the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing, but as I got better, I realized that I saw other personal trainers and they would keep things from their clients. Because they always wanted them to keep coming back to them. They would make a mistake on, I'm not going to give them everything they need because, I want the revenue. I want, their money. Whether that was conscious or subconscious, that happened. And I took a different approach with that. I was like, well, I'm going to give them everything they need. Their nutrition, their training, their supplements, their check-ins, all the things, like literally take them from A to Z in any way I can help, knowing that one good testimony or one good referral from that current client was going to get me 3 new clients. And then you just rinse and repeat. Like that's just pricing 101. It's supply and demand. Like if you have, for every 1 client, you get 3 testimonials or 3 referrals and 3 new leads who end up signing up with you. It doesn't take a rocket science to work out. You're going to be oversubscribed at some stage. So that means your price needs to go up. And then you just decide, how do you want to work, And I think that's a useful flip, because what happens is your retention stays really high with your clients because you're looking after them, number one. You're giving them everything they need. And also similar to what I said at the top, once you're pre-qualifying the right people, square pegs and square holes. That's the analogy I use on the podcast. I'm somebody's square peg for a square hole, which means that I'm a great fit for somebody, but equally that makes me a terrible fit for somebody else. Like somebody comes to me like a skinny kid that's like, look, I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle. I'm like, look, I could do that with you, but my program doesn't cater to you. It's semi-scaled now. I'm like, so you shouldn't come with me. You should go to this guy or you should go to that guy. So I'll send people to other trainers for that reason. Like with the beauty of, like, you guys know this, because when you're working with other trainers, you know people who are better serving. I sent a girl yesterday was messaging me about weight loss and menopause. I'm like, well, I'm not your person. I'm like, here, go to Michelle, which is a girl I'm working with on my course. I'm like, she will serve you way better than I can. And as a result of that, you end up bringing in the right people and they get great results, and it keeps your retention way up because you're able to serve them. You know for a fact that you are the best fit for this particular person. But equally, when somebody comes into your ecosystem who's not a good fit, you're sending them somewhere that's potentially better for them. And once you do that and rinse and repeat that over time, it sounds weird because you're like, oh no, don't turn away the business. But it's actually a really good business model because it'll jack up your retention. You'll get better results with people. Then you get more leads. You'll be converting those leads. And as I said, it's just supply and demand. When your price go up, and then you decide how you want to run your business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%, man.
I
That's
like
great
that.
stuff.
I like that a lot. Just a quick little like takeaway from that too, is because that's something similar Chris and I used to do as coaches, you know, when we did a lot of fitness coaching, is like, we stayed in our lane. And that's what we tell our PTs now, is stay in your lane. You know, just if you specialize in something, you know, then stay in that lane, stay true to it. And if you have other people to refer that will serve them better, then great. And you're even building like a cross reference. So I really, really like that. So the next question, Brian, is for an aspiring fitness professional that has no experience, what is the best piece of advice you can give them to get started? And then what was the biggest, you know, fail or setback that you occurred, you know, when you first started off?
You gave me a kind of a perfect layup for that one, because I'm going to build on what you just said. Like not having a niche and staying in your own lane, like that is not only the best piece of advice, and I'll expand on it, but it was also the biggest mistake I made. Was, you know, that philosophy of when you try and serve everybody, you end up serving nobody. Like that really rings true in practice if you don't get specific on who it is you're targeting. Now, one-to-one is slightly different from online, because one-to-one you're limited a little bit by geography. That's why I love, you know, you guys talk about in the book the hybrid model, that you can potentially serve everybody that's in your gym, but you can also serve them online. You know, you've got that kind of beautiful balancing act between the two, you know, as an option for people. So when I was one-to-one, it's not as important to have your niche really dialed in, because you're still going to be limited by geography, but it is essential if you're online. Like if you're online, in order to rise above the noise, you have to niche on a market and get specific on who you're targeting, because that is the only way, because there's so many trainers out there. There's so many mixed messages. You have to kind of build your own tribe around your message. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what other trainers are doing. It doesn't matter what other coaches are doing. You don't need that comparison syndrome, because it becomes irrelevant for your business, because you have a clientele, you have a market niche that you're serving. You know, busy mums, you know, busy mums who work as corporate CEOs, or overweight males who are, you know, 200 pounds overweight. You're working with specific people, and then it makes, when you know who you're serving, you talk about this. I saw this in the book. When you know who you're talking to in the avatar, it makes the content creation very easy, and you're just reverse engineering that. So when you know who your avatar is, and when you get niche on who it is you're trying to serve, strength and conditioning, weight loss, yoga, Pilates, whatever it is, when you get clear, you can build your entire business model from that. Because not only can you create the programs or the courses that will help those people, you know, either in a bespoke model or in a semi-scale model or a fully scale model, but you know exactly what content creation, what content you can create on a social media platform. Like all you have to do is ask one question, right? My avatar is 34 years old with 3 kids who works as a corporate CEO and makes 6 figures, for example. All you have to ask for content creation is this piece of content I'm creating going to help my avatar? If the answer is no, then you go and create a different piece of content. If the answer is yes, then you put that content on Instagram or on a podcast or in a blog post or whatever communication style you enjoy the most. And once you do that, you can rise above the noise. I made that mistake when I went online first. I was serving everybody in my online program.
Same here.
Like hands up, like it's so, you know, I literally had, like, if you saw my check-ins, like I could have, you know, a 16-year-old athlete in the morning, and I could be chatting to, you know, 57-year-old Mary in the evening. Like it was just so mixed in terms of spread. And that's all well and good if you don't want to get bored working with different people, but it's not a good business model. The good business model is to stay in your lane, figure out who it is you can serve, because then you can specialize. Like the analogy I use is, the reason that a doctor, a general practitioner doctor, gets paid less than a surgeon is because a surgeon is specialized. I'm like, when you're a personal trainer who specializes in a particular area of fitness or a particular area of health or a particular area of nutrition, you can charge a higher price and you can better serve those people. And I think that's the approach. I made that mistake in the beginning, and it's something that I hammer with people now and try and get them to really tattoo it on their brain, because it can be the difference between success and failure, especially in an online business.
Yeah. Man, Brian, this is exactly why we had you on, my man. We knew you were going to bring the heat on this. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Brian, like for your wisdom, your experience, and just dropping these knowledge bombs. It's going to help so many of these fitness professionals that are listening to this episode. So Brian, where could people go and follow you, like your podcast, everything you're doing on social media?
Eric and Chris, you're legends. Thank you so much, lads. Yeah, if for anyone listening, you can just check out my podcast, the Online Business Podcast. Go check out the episode with Eric and Chris. Like, it's a belter, knowledge bombs left, right, and center. Like, I literally had to tell everybody, I'm like, get a notepad and pen before you listen to this podcast. I'm like, just because you're going to be making so many notes. So the Online Business Podcast with Brian Keane, or, you know, you can go on my website, briankeenfitness.com. My online course is on there for moving your business online. But like, check out any social media handle, Brian Keane Fitness. I try and put out content across everything, because that's one of my favorite parts of the job, is just making content.
Yeah.
So as I said, lads, thank you so much again for having me on.
You're very welcome. And we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. And guys, seriously, go follow Brian. He's a true content producer, not a consumer. He is a walking billboard of everything he just talked about. So once again, Brian, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you next time.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much.
We are recording. All right, guys, welcome back to another Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner episode. We have the amazing Nicole Ferrier with us. Nicole, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. No, the pleasure is all ours, and we're excited to have you on. I know you're going to deliver a lot of value. You have a lot of good stuff going on, and you were just saying, too, that you're in Tampa, and we were talking about the thought of going to Universal Studios and wearing a mask in humidity type weather.
Yeah, definitely would not be the most ideal experience.
Exactly. Well, cool. Let's kick this off, Nicole. So I'm going to get right to it. So what is your number one strategy just for marketing to acquire more leads within your fitness coaching business that you can share with the audience?
And then how long have you been a Fit Pro for too?
Yeah, so I started my business when I was an undergrad in 2015. But I didn't fully believe that I could do it as like my full-time job. I thought that this was something that I would like maybe do when I was 30, and I'm now 25. So I decided once I got into the workforce that I find that a lot of people get underpaid and they get burnt out. And I decided to just pursue it fully in 2018. So I've been full-time online coaching since 2018.
Awesome. And what was like that self-limiting belief though that you had to where you thought you couldn't do it full time?
I think I was just scared to let other people down, or I guess I was comparing myself too much to where it just led me to not take any action at all. And also just nailing down some systems to where it would make my business flow versus feeling like I was just like running around with my head cut off.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then what would you say your number one, like, marketing, like tactic is to get more like online fitness leads? What's been working the best?
Yeah, just being really vulnerable and sharing my story on Instagram. I think that everybody has a story, but also spending time to educate. So all of my content is going to focus primarily on my ideal client, which is going to be a female who is struggling with a relationship with food, who has dieted year after year and is trying to find a more balanced relationship with the gym and food in general. So just really dialing in my content to that person, basically speaking to my past self, and also just being more vulnerable. And a lot of people on social will say I'm very down to earth and that they can relate a lot with me.
Love that. And do you have like a specific strategy with your content creation? Do you like just map it out like all one day, or do you have it all mapped out within the month? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. I'm a highly creative person, so luckily I have a lot of ideas that come to mind. I will say that whenever I have an idea, I will write it down on a sticky note, and then I have my planner where I will choose the day that I will post that. And I try to mix it up. I'm not going to post something just about myself every single day. I try to do something about myself and then 2 things that are educational and then something about myself, because although it's great to be educated, people also need to know who I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you hit on like just using your story, right? Because that's what we tell our Fit Pro students is like your story is like probably your number one marketing asset you have, right? Because of the relatability. And that's what people buy as coaches is relatability. And they see, themselves like in your journey. And if you're able to do it, that gives them the confidence and breaks those self-limiting beliefs so they can do it too, So
Mhm.
I'm glad you really hit on that. So what would you say too, Nicole? I'm sure you've worked with a lot of people, you know, online. So what would you say your number one retention tactic is to like really retain your clients?
hmm So my number one, I think, is just giving my clients a really good service where I'm communicating with them. I do in my coaching service offer coaching calls, and then they also have really quick responses. So they're receiving a really good service from me. And I also provide my clients with community. So like a Facebook community where they're connected to me on multiple platforms, not only on Instagram, but also in that Facebook group. And they hear my voice at least once a month. So just staying connected with them, creating a close relationship so my clients don't just feel like my clients, but they also feel like my friends as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you say that was weekly phone calls you do, or how is that system?
So I have different services. I have a service that does weekly phone calls and another one that just does a monthly phone call.
Gotcha. Very cool.
And then when did you come to that point where you were just like, okay, this is the amount of accessibility I need to, have with my clients? And more importantly, how did you get those boundaries established with your clients as well too?
So there's a couple boundaries I have with my clients. Like number one, I don't want them texting my personal cell because I think that when you are talking with someone on multiple platforms, communication can get muffled. So if I'm communicating with someone through Instagram DM and then email and then Facebook Messenger and then text message, it's just a lot. And then that client can become, a full-time job in itself. So I have all my clients review what's called a client promise, which is going to be their expectations that they can have from me and then expectations that I have from them as a client. So some of those expectations would be, showing up for your weekly check-in, communicating with me through email if anything is wrong, for example, travel or if someone got sick, and just keeping us in the loop of things, because of online coaching, the only way that we can communicate with our clients really is through email.
Yeah. I like that though. And I like how you have it's like the communication form. We used to do a lot of that when we did like this solely on fitness coaching. It was like, just here's what to expect. Here's the check-in dates. Here's like, when we're accessible through, answering questions. So I like that because you do have to establish those boundaries or else people are going to take advantage, and you don't want people like texting you or, hitting you on social media like at midnight or just like, you know what I mean?
And I also have like time limits too. Like they'll send their check-in, but if you're sending me a check-in at 9 p.m. Eastern time, I go to bed at 9:30, so I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to get to that email. And then I still try to take one day off during the week to prevent burnout. When I first started, I would work every single day, and I found that I felt really burnt out, and I kind of resented some of it, but
Yeah.
now I take Saturdays completely off. I try to not really go on social media that much. I don't really answer emails unless it's something urgent, and I find that I'm a better coach that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did too. Like we used to do updates every single day, just let everybody just update us whatever day. And then it wasn't until we switched to like a system where it's like only Tuesday, Thursdays. And that literally put us like in that coaches mode and wear our coaches hat to where it's like, we're in full on coaching mode. Like these other days are not for like check-ins, they're to work on the business and stuff like that. And then a full rest day too, to
Yeah.
recharge your batteries. That's super smart.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to batch work your task as a coach. Like you can't be doing a ton of check-ins every single day. Like Wednesdays is my creative day. That's why we're podcasting. But I take Wednesdays as a creative day and also a day to maybe work on some programming. So programming takes time with, training. And again, I can't be doing check-ins all the time because that's just like having an appointment all day, every day.
Yeah. And you want to give them a good quality, like, update and feedback as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Nicole. For the last question is basically, for the aspiring online coach, this is kind of twofold. What is like maybe a really game-changing tip that you would recommend? And then what was maybe the biggest lesson learned or mistake that you made that you can kind of look back on and be like, I wouldn't do this or recommend this?
Well, I did invest in a coach to help me back in 2018. Her name is Alex Mazurko, and she helped me just with business systems, also things that people don't really talk about, like setting up an LLC and how taxes work. If you don't know what taxes are, you're going to have a nice wake up call when you're starting a business. But like just the important backside end that like my parents couldn't help me with, because both my parents worked traditional government-based jobs and they didn't know anything about owning an online business. So I think investing in yourself is really important, because how are you going to do something if you don't have anyone in your life that's currently doing that thing? Very rarely do people like know someone like in their phone that they can just call up and ask questions to. It's going to be someone who's doing those things that you want to do and doing them 10 times better. Like that's the person that you should be hiring. And then also just nailing down systems. So organization's a big thing. Once you get leads, that's great. Once you get people to sign up, that's great. But if you don't have like a nice check-in process, a good follow-up process, a good retention process, like you're not going to keep those clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say right now you're still actively like seeking coaching from other people just to kind of just like level up in your whole entire business and everything?
I do a lot of just self-education through podcasts, but I do think it's important to invest when you want to take your business to the next level. So like I know for myself, um, whenever I'm ready to pivot, because I've looked into getting into business coaching myself, like that's going to be a whole new space for me to get into. So I need to hire someone who, again, is doing that, because they're going to help educate me in something new. No one is ever like a master right away. Like I still feel like I'm fully mastering the online fitness coaching space, as I want to look into expanding my team and hiring coaches to join me and like what my mission is. But once I get to that point, I know that there's going to be something else that I'll want to get my feet in.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And you're doing a hell of a job with it right now. And I know just like more success is coming your way. So Nicole, thank you so much for providing all this value. This is great for, aspiring personal trainers, fitness enthusiasts. So what can we support you on right now? And where can the listeners keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm on mostly Instagram at Nicole Ferrier Fitness. And then you guys can also get more content from me on my podcast, which is called Beyond the Bikini Radio.
Oh, I like that. Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. So guys, go follow Nicole, see all the cool stuff she's doing. And until next time.
Thank you.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Dynamic Fit Pros Coaches Corner episode. We have the awesome Luis Montoya in the house. How you doing, Luis?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, man. Now we're pumped up about this. And, it is, like I said, we have 4 other fitness professionals that we've interviewed on this. And, every single one has just dropped a lot of heat, fire, wisdom, everything, man. So I'm pumped up for this. I know you're doing a lot of amazing things. So yeah, let's kick this off. So Luis, what's your go-to? Okay, first question. How long have you been a fitness professional, and what is your go-to strategy to generate leads and get more clients?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the fitness industry for about 10 years now. I started off as a personal trainer, obviously doing fitness competitions and stuff like that on the side, got into professional fitness modeling. The personal training kind of took off for me, but I just kind of noticed it was a little bit of, it was a different take to what I had in mind. I wanted freedom, so I kind of figured out how to go online if I wanted that. So yeah, I did that not too long ago. I've been loving it since. And as far as my go-to for getting leads, I would say social media. Social media, utilizing every platform on social media to the fullest. I think when people hear that, they think, okay, Facebook, they think Instagram, but are you really utilizing every tool on each platform? And what I mean by that is, people don't understand algorithms, like Instagram, for example. One thing is, when people say, okay, well, I tried the Instagram stuff, I don't really have a big following, I'm not getting engagement, I always ask people, let's go back to the basics. Are you doing what, Instagram is asking for your page to be able to be seen for like all your followers, you know? And, you know, most people don't. And what I mean by that is, you know, you got to be consistent, just like anything, just like fitness. You got to be consistent. You got to post anywhere from like at least 1 to 3 times a day on social media. And it's not just posting, it's utilizing every tool that Instagram is giving you, utilizing the lives, you know, utilizing the stories, utilizing, you know, the feed, interacting with people. It's not just posting, it's obviously interacting with people, building a culture. That's how you become successful. And, you know, that's how you get seen on social media and you start standing out from the rest. And when you do, that's how, you know, the leads come.
I like that. And then would you say that Instagram's probably been like, just like your go-to, the one that you enjoy the most?
Yeah, definitely. For a long time it was Facebook, and I'd say Instagram, which is kind of weird. You know, I go back and forth. It's kind of paces with me. I think it's one of those things where I start seeing a lot of success on, you know, a platform, like let's just take Instagram. Instagram's been my go-to for a long time, just because I started, you know, focusing on building my my following there. It's been my go-to, but it's been kind of weird lately. I guess my engagement kind of dropped on Facebook for a while. I feel as like, you know, maybe it's the audience or whatever it was, but and I go back to, you know, are you really doing what the platform is asking, you know, from you? And I realized that I wasn't paying attention to my Facebook as my Instagram, just because, you know, I was getting so much leads from Instagram that I just kind of stopped posting on Facebook as much as I used to. But once, you know, the whole Corona thing hit, I started getting back into Facebook, and it kind of shifted. Now I'm seeing a lot more success on Facebook. So for those of you guys who are kind of just wondering, like, well, where can I get more leads from? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? It's just a matter of, like, you know, you put in what you get, you know, or you get what you put in.
Yep.
I guess I would say.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
both fantastic. They're both fantastic.
I like how you said on Instagram, man. I look at Instagram like a lake, and then it's like there's like 5 or 6 different polls that you need in that lake to put in there with stories, live, all that type of stuff. So you got to utilize all that stuff in there. So I mean, obviously, man, you've been in the industry for 10 years. You know, started as an in-person trainer, now online trainer. I would say in this next question, what's like your tip? Your biggest tip has been for like retaining clients, and let's say in the online context.
You know what? I think it applies for both online or in person. What I'm about to say, you got to genuinely take care of your people. You know, I think a lot of people who get into business or, you know, training or online, whatever it is, you know, when they start thinking like, I want to make more money, they start thinking about the money. You know, like as soon as they get the payment. And you see this with either in person or online trainers a lot. You know, a lot of times once they get paid, their performance as a trainer kind of starts decreasing. So the best advice that I can give someone is you got to take care of your people. You know, they paid for a service. You got to create the best experience for them possible. If you can create the best experience possible for this person, that person is going to be a walking billboard for you. And also an advertisement. They're going to start, you know, sending referrals. They're going to start tagging you, and it's free advertisement that you can benefit from, and, you know, in the long term. So my best advice is just, you know, take care of your people, you know, like they're, you know, let's just say if you were to have 50 clients, let's just say you're lucky enough to have 50 clients, treat each one of them like it's your own, like your number one client, that one client, right? And if you can do that with each one of them, you're going to be successful long term. I've had clients that they've been with me for maybe 3-4 years, which is fantastic, you know?
Yep. 100%, man. And that's what we talk about. It's like, don't always bank on what you make in the front end of just one transaction with the client. What you want to really focus on is the lifetime value of that customer, right? Like, because they're going to stay if you're really good and you're getting results 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and they're going to refer. So I really like how you said this, to really, really take care of your people. It's so true.
Yeah. And just to add to that, man, I mean, just don't favor clients. Like, even if like one's like, you know, genetically more gifted, one's like a harder worker, you can't favor clients, and that will backfire like crazy. So is there any other like couple examples you can give us, Luis, like how you really just go above and beyond and create this experience?
Yeah. You know, if I can just kind of tap onto what you were saying right now, you know, don't have, don't play favoritisms. I've been on the other end of that. I've invested in a lot of mentors, coaches in the past, and I've always seen it as an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I paid big money, man, for a lot of the coaches that have coached me, and I'm sure you guys know a lot of them. They coach people in the IFBB Pro League, but I've had good experiences and bad experiences, which has made me a better coach. Going through that process of having a bad coach, or seeing something that I don't like, I think to myself, okay, this is what I don't want to do in my business. Because I feel some type of way. And when you're talking about favoritisms, I remember my very first coach that I paid. At that time, I think I paid maybe, I'm going to go ahead and just throw a number out there. I think it was like $800 for my very first, coach. And at that time, it was a lot of money. So I was expecting this person to just come through and, show me the ropes and, really teach me, because that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't just about, getting in shape. It was about learning how to do this. And unfortunately, this person had a high volume of clients. And, we're talking about, IFBB pros, people that, are genetically gifted. At that time, this is probably 7 years ago. I didn't look like I look now. I was had lost 100 pounds. I was super skinny, trying to focus on building muscle. So I was probably I wasn't as, great looking. My physique wasn't where, the other guys were, I wasn't as competitive as they were. So unfortunately, I didn't get that attention to detail. And I remember, just thinking to myself, man, I don't ever want to do that to my clients. So
Yeah.
I try to just lock that in my head and remember that, it's a learning experience.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. We can relate and have tons of stories with that too. So I definitely understand. So for the aspiring fitness professional that's just really just starting off, whether it's in person or online, what's your number one tip for them that they should really focus on? And then what has been the biggest mistake or failure that you have, kind of come across or that's personally, and then how did you overcome that?
Yeah. Let me answer one by one, just because my train of thought, I always have so much information in my head that I want to give out, Okay. So, a tip to anybody who's like an aspiring coach or, trying to get in the fitness industry, be passionate about what you do. You have to be passionate about, wanting to help others, there's a lot of money to be made in this industry, which is fantastic. And trust me, it will come. Initially, you're not probably going to make what you want to make, but if you can, just be passionate about generally helping people, you're going to go so far. I always try to remember that. And, a lot of the feedback that I get from a lot of my clients is, I truly care about my clients. I want to see them succeed. Like, it actually upsets me when they don't do the work because I see their potential and I'm like, I'm helping you. You have all the tools to be successful. Yep. So if you can have that type of passion where you truly generally want to help people. And I've even had it in the past where some people will maybe want to, I don't know, they doubt the program or whatever it is, or maybe they need the money and they're like, hey, they're trying to find a way to kind of get out of it. So, even when they first start, I always tell them, hey, you know what, let's not think about the money. I'll give you the money back. I just want you to finish this because I know if you give me 90 days of your life, I'm going to transform your life like no one has ever done, So just be passionate about what you do. And that goes into anything in life. How I do one thing is how I do everything in life.
Love that. Love that. And then has there been any failure that you just, when you started off and how did you overcome that to not make you just want to be like, oh, I'm throwing in the towel. I can't do this.
Yeah. Not being patient with the process.
Okay.
I've been in the industry for 10 years, man, and thankfully, things are going really, really good. And I feel like I'm just barely getting started into barely tapping into my success, or what can be my success. Just be patient. Things are not going to happen overnight. Some people are lucky to have that type of, success, but, take it slow, be passionate about what you do, generally try to help others and, try to be open-minded. I think that's probably the biggest thing. A lot of people let their ego kind of get in the way of their success. They think they know it all. There was a point where I thought I knew it all, but there's so many ways to skin a cat. And if you can just ask for help, you know, when you feel like you're stuck or maybe you're lacking something, you know, again, it's an investment. Maybe hire someone who can teach you how to learn that trait, you know, that you're lacking. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
good.
would say.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Luis, I mean, these have been some great tips and answers. And it just, I mean, I can see it through your answers, man. You've had a lot of experience and wisdom and, you know, a lot of mentors. And that's really what it's all about. It's a journey, man. So thank you so much for your time and, you know, passing down all this stuff. It's going to really help out the aspiring coaches that are listening to this in this Coach's Corner series. So where can we follow you and what can we support you on most importantly right now?
Yeah, it would be, you know, so my website is luismontoyafit.com, and you guys can find me on all platforms, and it would be at Luis Montoya Fit.
Awesome. We'll have that all linked up in the show notes. Once again, guys, go follow Luis, all this good stuff he's posting, all the wisdom he has, all that stuff. So Luis, again, thank you so much, man. And until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video and another episode on pro tips on living a dynamic lifestyle. We truly appreciate it. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested in getting more value like this from these pro tips, make sure to subscribe above. We're going to be dropping these daily. Also, if you are a fitness professional and you're looking to create more income, impact, influence, and independence, we just dropped our new book, Rise of the Fit Pros, so you guys can do all of that. And you can also start building your hybrid training model of in-person and online training. So make sure to click the link or the book right here to grab your guys' copy, and we'll send it over to you. Other than that, we're out. Talk to you soon.